Okay, with all the rage of Bernie Sanders mittens, I thought it was only fair, because I'm a Vermonter, to show you how simple and quickly you can make these mittens. So the first thing you're going to need to do is to go to a thrift shop and buy a used wool sweater. Of course, we go to thrift shops because we're from Vermont. So here's a good 100% wool sweater, very Vermont looking, and we're going to wash it, dry it, and then press it out so it's nice and flat. You're going to cut out your pieces of the sweater with these simple pattern pieces. It's just 4 pattern pieces. I've chosen a different color for the cuff. So then you're going to cut out some lining of fleece. The polar fleece that I'm using is, I went out and gathered some bottles, plastic bottles. I ground them up with my meat grinder, and then I dyed them using natural products like pine leaves and dandelion greens. And that's how I got this nice color. I do have a little dye still on my hands, but it's all natural, so it's not going to be harmful to me. So the first step is you've washed your sweater, you've dried it, you've pressed it. Now you've cut out your pieces and you're separating them. And you've cut 2 out right sides together. So you're going to lay your first pieces out are going to be your thumb pieces, the one with the round one and the one with the square one. And you're going to lay those on top of your fleece that you've cut out loosely. And the reason you cut it out loosely is so that you don't have to spend quite so much time lining it up. It's just going to all work out nice together. We're going to stitch around the thumb. I usually use my hand crank or my treadle machines, but this, for the sake of the video, we had to do this faster because, you know, how long do you really want to spend watching me make mittens? So we've sewn through all 4 layers, and now we're just going to trim, and we can easily see where to trim because we've got stitching lines. So just cut that away and snip into your corners and make your edge nice and smooth enough. Smooth enough. So now you're going to turn your piece right side out, and you've got a beautifully lined front of the mitten with no seams showing. That's why we stacked it the way we did. So now for the second part, it's so simple. You're going to take, and normally I would press this, but because of time constraints, we're just going to go for it. So we're going to take our mitten like that. We're going to line up the top of the mitten right sides together. And then our other polar fleece part, we're going to put on the bottom. And then we're just going to stitch around this. There we go. Don't sew over your fingers, it hurts. All right, so we've got that all together. We have a little cat that wants to talk about this video too. He has a lot to say. He really enjoys sewing. So now we've trimmed around this part of the mitten, and we're going to turn this right side out. So look at this. Now we have a fully lined mitten that needs some pressing, but no seams, again, showing on the inside. And then your last step is so simple. You're just going to take your cuff piece that you cut out. You're going to sew it right sides together up the side. I've already prepared it. I've right sides together. Now I fold it in half with the seam on the inside. I put it inside the mitten. I like to line mine up with the thumb seam. So around that. I thought this shade of brown was nice. It kind of matches your Burton jacket that if you want to do the Bernie Sanders look, that brown will match his nice brown Burton jacket. You turn that like that. And then the last step I like to do is I have some yaks out in the backyard, and I, you know, take their their yarn from them, and I dyed that green as well because this is just a nice coordinating green. I take some of my homespun yak yarn and I do some stitching to hold the cuff down. You just go around that a few times, do some nice stitching. I'll finish that later, but then you can clearly have perfect Bernie Sanders mittens.